I'm thinking about rats and about operant conditioning. And I think I'm also thinking about superstition and religion, but I'm not sure if there's a relationship there at all, actually. So I was just reminded of a kind of classical operant conditioning experiments that you do with rats, where you put them in a cage and there's a little lever at the side of the cage. And when they press the lever, they're rewarded with a food pellet, or a drink of orange juice or something like that. And if you do that, of course, they very, very quickly learn to press the lever and get the reward. Get the reward. But what I think is found often in that experiment is that the behaviour that's captured by that procedure isn't just the pressing of the lever. Whatever the rat does just prior to the reward arriving is also tends to be captured in that kind of behaviourist action. So, for example, if the rat turns around once and then presses the lever and gets the food pellet, when it goes back repeatedly to that, it'll keep doing this circuit first before it presses the lever. And in a way it makes kind of sense, because obviously the rat has very little access to causality. I don't know how rats' brains operate and what kind of facilities they have, but if they understand causality at all, I imagine that's relatively limited. But even if they did understand causality, there's no logical causal connection between a lever on the wall and the appearance of a food pellet. Even if they could understand the mechanism by which such things operate, that mechanism isn't visible to them anyway, so it's completely irrelevant. From the rat's perspective, turning around is as likely to be a cause. The language is wrong in this, I apologise for that. But the turning around is as likely to be significant as the pressing of the lever in pursuit of this food pellet. Now the reason why I'm saying that is I'm just thinking, well, in terms of humans, particularly early humans, but I guess just the being of a modern human as well, is it more likely that we capture more of those other behaviours, or is it more likely that we capture less? So let me think about early humans on that for a minute. If we're an early human, some kind of hominid, some primate, barely vertical, and we're getting into some kind of stimulus response loop with our environment, is it likely that we'll do more of those kind of extraneous activities or less? And as a lead into that, which would give us the greatest adaptive advantage? Is it more adaptively advantageous to carry out more of those kinds of what we'd see as extraneous behaviours, or is it less adaptively advantageous? I think it's bound to be more advantageous. I mean, given the fact that the causal connections between the action and the response, the pressing of the lever and the receiving of the food pellet, the shaking of the tree and the dropping of the bananas, whatever the action, what kinds of actions happened in the early life of humans, there's we probably wouldn't have had the cognitive capacities to trace the causal connections any more than the rat has the cognitive connections to trace the causal connections between levers and food pellets. And again, even if we did have those cognitive capacities, quite often causality is not immediately obvious. Shaking a tree and the dropping of a banana from a tree is quite a complex causal connection, I think, actually. So I'm not sure that even if we were capable of identifying mechanisms that would even have the opportunity to do so. So from the point of view of an early hominid, the ones that were most florid in their repeating of behaviours which corresponded to the receiving of a reward, those early humans were more likely to receive the reward, because if you made any kind of selection at all, like an intelligent rat, having turned around and pressed the lever, if he made the wrong choice and thought, oh, it's the turning around that's important, he would starve to death. I'm assuming here, of course, he hasn't got rigorous testing procedures where he breaks the procedure down into parts and does them all individually. I think that would be much later on in the evolutionary narrative. You'd be more likely to survive if you just repeated the whole thing, get as much stuff as you could going. So if it happened on a full moon, you do it then. If you happen to be scratching yourself while this great thing happened, you would scratch yourself. If you happen to be making a sound with your mouth at the same time, you'd say that same thing again, if saying it the right word. There'll be a whole set of what, from our perspective now, we would think of as either ritualistic behaviour or superstitious behaviour or extraneous behaviour. Billy, come on, leave Max alone, come on. But at the time it was probably highly advantageous. And maybe that's what's going on with religion and superstitions now. Come on, come on. Sorry, my dog's just went back to Max, this beautiful Italian Spinoni that was down the lane.